Welcome into the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Have an excellent program for you today, folks. We're going to go a little bit beyond the psychic realm today. We've got a special guest in today who is a master Akashic Records teacher. So we're going to get a little bit beyond the psychic norm today. We're going to talk about some wonderful, wonderful stuff today, such as activating your DNA, such as some different stuff that maybe you've never heard before. I know typically when we do psychic shows, you tend to hear a lot of the same stuff. Not so much with our guest today, Amy Robeson. Let me tell you a little bit about Amy. We'll get right into it today. We'll dive right into it today and learn about some exciting stuff with Amy. Amy Robeson is a master Akashic Records teacher, light language master, and mentor who helps people tap into their most powerful inner potential to experience profound transformation and magic. She is passionate about exploring spiritual concepts and truths and encourages her students to get curious and stay curious, which is a wonderful thing. As the founder of Sacred Awakening, she has created a powerful Akashic Records program, allowing her students to receive answers in any area of their life so they can live an empowered, aligned life. Amy is the perfect guide, breaking down complex spiritual concepts to meet her students where they are and helping them overcome roadblocks, outdated beliefs, and even trauma to achieve their highest good. And boy, we can talk about that little bit for almost an hour. I know that much. Let's welcome in for the first time to Darkness Radio, Amy Robeson. Amy, welcome so much to Darkness Radio. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Well, we're excited to have you. Maybe that's a good place to start. Let's talk about the person who's sitting there in trauma. And I want to start with your beginnings, because your beginnings began in trauma. Let's talk about your beginnings in trauma and how you got out of it. Tell us a little bit about your beginnings and your beginning trauma.
Yeah, so I grew up in a household. My stepdad was a severe alcoholic, and so I walked on eggshells for all of my life as a kid. And when you walk on eggshells, that definitely goes into how you behave and how you interact and how you think as an adult. And in my early 20s, I just had so much trauma, so many trauma responses that I didn't want to be here anymore. I was in the darkest place of my life. I didn't want to be here anymore. And I started receiving, I didn't have these words back then, but I started receiving downloads where it's like, go to yoga, go do hot yoga. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I don't know. And so I looked it up, and there was a brand new Bikram studio. It's now called Hot 26, but there's a brand new Bikram studio down that just opened up down from the road from my house. And the moment I went there, I felt like home. It felt exactly like where I was supposed to be. I had all these endorphins, all of this adrenaline that pumped through me, the first class I had. And everything started to change in my life because I was following a path that was in alignment with where I was meant to go. And so with yoga, it really helped me start getting clearer on the things that I wanted versus just doing things to appease people, because I'm a super big people pleaser. Because when you grow up in a household where you have to make sure that you do everything perfectly, you're going to become a people pleaser. Yeah. So for me, that started assisting me in saying no and looking at, I remember going to work one day. I used to work in the car business, and I worked at a car dealership for a short period of time. And I just couldn't stand being there. I didn't like the people that I worked with. I used to work at a different dealership, same group, but I just didn't care for the culture in this particular dealership. And I remember going to work one day, and I said, I don't want to be here. And she goes, you say that every day. And I looked at her and I go, you're right. I do say that every day. And I got up and I just had the courage to go call up the vice president and be like, please transfer me back to my old dealership, because I do not want to be here anymore. And I do not like this place. It wasn't a place that really cultivated where my soul was wanting to go. And so fast forward, I end up going to back to college. I end up I'm still in the car business. I start dating my now husband, and I moved to Charleston, South Carolina to be with him. And I cracked my tailbone for the second time in my life.
Oh.
And if you've never cracked your tailbone before, it's painful.
Yeah.
And when you crack it the second time, it's like next level. And so what I could do to move through things and work through things in yoga practice, I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't actually bend. I couldn't, like, I was starting to walk with a limp. I was in chronic pain. And so I started feeling myself slip back into a deep depression. I'm like, I don't want to crawl my way out again. Like, I don't want to crawl my way out again. I don't want to get to the point where I don't want to be here anymore. What is my soul calling me to do? What am I wanting to do that I haven't been doing? And that was learn how to meditate, learn how to do dream interpretations. And so I started to learn all of the things that I was curious to learn about. And I'm a big believer, you follow the energy that presents itself to you, that your heart is a yes for. And doors will open up that you never imagined would open. And for me, that was the Akashic Records, that's light language, all sorts of different modalities that really have brought me next level peace and self-discovery and understanding. But where I started was from a place of I didn't want to be here to a place where I love being here. Like, I think life is so interestingly chaotic in such a good way, and that we have the opportunity to feel emotions and we have the opportunity to experience highs and lows, and what we choose and how we choose to react to those given situations is what creates our reality in that particular moment. And so if you don't like what your reality is, you have the power to choose and create something different. Does it take time? Absolutely, but you get to choose it.
Do we have to get to the level of desperation to find courage, though? That's generally what most people have to do. What does it take to not have to get to desperation to find courage?
I think that is such a fantastic question, because that's usually when people are like, finally, I've had enough, right? Where what I find is when you start doing the work and you stay in a place of curiosity and you're not in story. So let me say that slightly different. So like sometimes we get into story and then we cause a lot more heartache because we know what we're supposed to be doing, but we choose not to do it because we're in story. Where when you're doing the work and all of a sudden story comes up and you're like, ooh, I'm noticing a pattern. Why am I behaving that way? Why am I not giving myself permission to stop hurting myself? What is it that I truly want, and how can I go about doing it? And this is why I love the Akashic Records, because the Akashic Records can help you get out of story, can help you stay curious, can help you work through things before they become an emergency. They can help you work through things when it is an emergency, because sometimes we just have like unexpected things come up because that's how life is. But then there's things that you're wishing, hoping that you can get done and accomplished while you have the support of the Akashic Records. You have the support of the guardians of the records, and they can support you work through those things and work through the stories and identify where you might have a blind spot, identify where you might be holding yourself back, where you might find support. And it's really neat to witness and to see, and you can change your reality in a really short period of time just by working in the records and asking questions.
So, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but let me ask the question as long as we're on it. So let's say I'm at a point where things are stagnant with me, okay? And I hate to throw the thing on me. I'm not throwing it necessarily on me, but as a metaphorical me.
Yeah.
And I can't get forward. How is the Akashic Records going to help me go forward where a good therapist wouldn't?
So, one, you might be worrying all day and you're like, I can't see my therapist for another week. I really need some support now. Where it's not saying you don't need a therapist or you don't need the help of a healer or a friend or whatever. It's sometimes people just aren't available because you have something on your mind or you can't sleep or whatever it is. And if you're practicing, I always encourage my students to practice 5 minutes a day. Spend 5 minutes a day just asking questions in the records. Everybody has 5 minutes. And let's say you are stagnant. One of the things that you can ask is like, how can I overcome this energy of stagnation? Like, I feel like I'm stagnant. I don't know why. Tell me why and how I can overcome it. And just by asking that question, what does it bring you? It brings you hope. It brings you excitement because you have someone that's some energy, some beings, your support system coming in and supporting you and holding you. And sometimes it's not even the answer. It's just knowing that you have that support system that helps change your perspective of what is possible. Because the records, the Akashic Records, are a field of infinite possibilities. And every word, deed, thought from the moment your soul is incepted is recorded in the Akashic field. You can think about it as like an energetic library of your soul and what your soul has ever experienced and could possibly experience. And I say could possibly experience because you have free will. Things can change, possibilities can change based on decisions. And so they reorganize themselves based on what's going on in your life. And so when we go into the records, we speak to the masters, teachers, and loved ones, also known as the guardians, and they're there to answer questions from a place of love. And they're there to give you guidance without judgment. Because sometimes, even with a therapist or even with a friend or with a family member, we can want advice, but we're too embarrassed to actually ask.
Okay.
Or there's too much shame or there's too much guilt, where this takes it out. They do not care. You do not have to show up prim, proper, and perfect. You don't have to show up in a right robe. You don't have to show up when you're, and I'm going to put this in quotations, high vibe. You can show up when you're having the most cruddy day, and they're going to love on you because they know that you are having a human experience and they want to support you in raising your consciousness, raising your frequency so that you can enter your realm of reality from a different perspective, because they're there to help you shift perspectives.
Now, I've always heard that the Akashic Records contain certain things. I'm hearing some interesting information from you as well about what's in these things. Is there information in there as far as our past lives and other things as well? So Are they drawing on that information as well to tell me how to get out of certain situations?
Yes. So they take in consideration your entire soul's journey. They're not taking in consideration just Tim's journey from this lifetime. They're taking into consideration your entire soul's lineage. So you have two lineages. You have your soul lineage. This is where everything your soul has ever experienced. It's all recorded in the Akash. And then you have your ancestral lineage that you were born into. And that ancestral lineage impacts you just like your soul lineage impacts you. And this is why some people have conflicting beliefs or have a hard time going with the flow in their family systems, because they're like, no, my soul has experienced all of this. And I'll just give this example because it's an easy example for people to wrap their heads around. But it's like, all of a sudden I'm born into a family that has extreme religious beliefs. But my soul has had all these other experiences outside of those religious beliefs and believes something different, has different values, has different beliefs. And so there's this conflict between, do I honor my family or do I honor myself?
Ah, okay.
And so the cool thing is you can unpack it in the records. You can unpack it where you can go, my family has these beliefs and I don't know why. They just don't sit well with me. Why is that? And they might go, because you've never been born into this type of religion and your soul has had XYZ experience. And so it literally feels like you are grinding against metal, trying to fit that belief into your system.
I see. So there's a lot of interesting things that are maintained here. And like you said, you can kind of hang loose and vibe with these masters and talk to them about anything that's going on in what's going on there. Now, where does the healing begin? Does the healing begin in the discussion, or does the healing begin in processing this information? Where exactly does this healing begin?
It's like the chicken or the egg, right?
Right.
So sometimes the healing can begin just by making the decision to become a student of the records.
Okay.
Sometimes it can begin with, let me think about questions that I want to ask. And all of a sudden you start feeling into the possibility of what the answers to those questions could be and how they can change your life. It can be just by entering into the records. So it just depends on the moment, the person, and the actual topic or theme that they're discussing. Some of it can be just going, okay, I want to grow my business and I want help getting my business going. Just thinking about that can start the healing process where the guardians are like, ooh, this person wants to start a business. Let's figure out everything that could possibly help and support this individual with growing a business. So when we go into the records, we can reorganize because there's no separation between space and time. Because once you're a student of the records and you start thinking about things, you're energetically connecting in even before you open your records, and they're prepared for you when you get in there because there's no separation between time and space. And so when you go in, you could actually go in, and this is the funny part where you're gonna be like, wait, what? You go in, they answer your questions, and you be angry. You can be upset because you're like, that's not the answer I wanted. I wanted it to be simple. I don't want to do that work. But that right there helps you have a self-discovery because the records are all about self-discovery. Have you self-discovery, and it's like, wait, why am I angry about this? And that could be the thing that actually invokes the change. That could be the thing that actually helps heal. And I'm not saying everybody, anytime you go in there that you're going to be angry every time, but no, there are times where I've been practicing the records for a very long time. Sometimes I get told stuff I don't want to hear about because I don't want to do the work because I'm having that human experience. However, being curious where I'm like, wait, why am I upset about this? And then I can ask, like, hey, support me. Why am I upset about this? And it could be because you don't feel worthy that you can actually do it.
Ah, all right. You know, there's such human words, Amy, as destiny, fate, things that we put in human context that someone who thinks they're born, I'll give you a perfect example. Somebody who is born into, let's say, a shopkeeper's family, someday this is all going to be yours. Someday you're going to grow up, you're going to learn the business. This business, you're going to inherit it, you're going to run it, you're going to hand it down to your son or daughter. It's going to be theirs. It's been in the family for generations. It's going to be yours. You're going to hand it down. But you feel like that's not in your soul. That's not you, and you don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there such a thing as not being able to escape your fate or your destiny? And is it always written in the record as such?
One is you choose your family. Like you as a soul, pick your mom, you pick your dad, and you choose your family. So sometimes you go into life, it's not sometimes, it's always, but when you go into life, you pick certain challenges and experiences that ancestral lineage can teach you. And maybe in this lifetime, using your example, your goal is to speak up and to honor your true self and to honor what you're really wanting to do and to pave the way that you want it to do it, not the way that your family wants to do it. And so having the courage to say, I love that you have created such an amazing business, that you've created such an amazing legacy. However, this isn't my path and it doesn't feel right for me to do it. That can be the most liberating thing that someone can do, that if that's truly what they want. And it's the most liberating thing for their soul because they're actually doing the very thing that they came here to do, which was to have a voice and to honor their true soul's path. And not everything is supposed to be perfect, and not everything is supposed to be, I like to say sunshine and rainbows. Like, where we learn is when we have challenges, when we have character building dates, character building moments, or character building chapters. And if you think about your family, everybody has challenges in their family. And the cool thing is like I was born into a family that's not religious, and I'm grateful that I was born into that family because of the things that I do and I teach, and I can have empathy towards my clients that have been born into religious families because they have a really hard time figuring out what's theirs and what's not theirs, and what's their belief system and what's not their belief system. But what they're doing is they're honoring themselves by being curious of exploring the things that their heart is wanting them to do. And so whenever there's this pressure to do what your ancestors did before, but every ounce of your body is telling you, no, you got to listen to that.
Yeah.
Like you have to, because otherwise what you're doing is you're hurting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, the fate and destiny thing has always intrigued me, because some people really do buy into the fact that they think that they're stuck in one path in life and that they can't change that path, and that path is never wavering, and that they can't do anything else.
Yeah, I think that we overcomplicate things just because of whatever the fear is. So the fear could be, I can't do that because of money. I can't do that because I don't have time. I can't do that because I was born into this, or I was doing this. And the thing is, and like for me, like in my previous career, I was super afraid to leave that because there was all these people around me going, you're stupid if you leave this. Like, you're leaving behind good money. You're leaving behind a good career. You help people. Guess what? I help people in the career that I do now, and I enjoy it tremendously. I have a much bigger impact. And so the thing is you have to honor yourself, and all of the rest is noise. And, I think that part of seasons in life is figuring out what your purposes are in those seasons, because we have many purposes in our life, and it's not just this grand purpose, because everybody always thinks it's like, this is my destiny, this is the one and only thing I'm coming here to do. No, like sometimes you're here to show kindness to someone. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your purpose in that season is to learn how to say no, or to have very clear boundaries, to have a voice, like learning how to speak up for yourself. And so it's really important to remember, like, am I being on purpose? Like, is this on purpose? Because if it's not, what are you doing? You're dishonoring yourself and you're hurting yourself in the most grotesque way. And it might not look physical, like you're physically hurting yourself, but you're emotionally, mentally, spiritually hurting yourself, that can end up hurting you physically through dis-ease.
Ah, okay. So let me ask you this. As we're getting close here to break time, is it possible to backslide in a life as we go down the chain of lives? So, for example, as we're heading down I don't want to call it a rabbit hole, it's not, but as we're heading down our lives, as we come back and live a life and live a life and live a life, let's say we're getting stronger and stronger in character. We're learning how to express ourselves. We're getting higher and higher in the food chain of life. Let's say our stations in life are growing. We're getting as far as power or station in life, or you know what I'm saying, in position in life. And then all of a sudden we get to this life, maybe we don't speak up for ourselves as much, or we become a little more timid, or people walk over us more, or whatever it is. Is this the life where we need to learn certain lessons? Is this the life where all of a sudden we've backslid? Is that a thing?
I think remember, everybody comes in with amnesia, right? Like we forget everything. And part of our mission in any lifetime is to remember. And what we're remembering is our wholeness. And when we go from one lifetime to the next lifetime, before we go to the next lifetime, we do a review and we remember our wholeness. We are in remembrance of our wholeness, and we get to review, like, I could have done that differently. Here are the lessons I didn't learn in this lifetime. And it's a theme. Like, I keep not learning these lessons. And this is what I did really well. And then you have a karma bank, things that you need to make up for and things that you did really well that get to be on your side. And when you come into this new life, you still forget things. Like you're going to forget. And how you choose to react to any given situation is going to determine how that reality sits in that particular moment in time. And so throughout lifetime, and I like to use this as an example, like just because someone has an addiction and they went down the rabbit hole of addiction, they did all these awful things, doesn't mean they have to be punished for the rest of their life for an addiction that they had. Because they have the opportunity to reinvent their life, they have the opportunity to reinvent themselves, and they have the opportunity to do good things, right? And the past is the past, and the past can assist us in remembering. And sometimes we choose that past to understand ourselves more, even if it's out of place of darkness. We're going to remember if we give ourselves permission to remember. And there are people that don't get out of the darkness and they get consumed by it. And then when they go through the review, they have to figure out what it is that they can do it. But at any point in time in your life, you can choose to start viewing things in a different way, start to participating in life in a different way, and you can have a rebirth. And a rebirth is we are constantly having deaths throughout our lifetime, and those deaths are identities that we have. And so, I mean, if you think about your identity from when you were 20 years old to now, how many identities have you had since then, right? It's changed a lot. But I don't think someone should be punished for the rest of their life if they did something before that they did it out of a lack of understanding or a lack of awareness or a lack of whatever. They have the opportunity to reform. They have the opportunity to find wholeness, and they have the opportunity to heal. Because I think everybody can heal, even if they've done the most grotesque things. I think that if you have time and space to reflect and to understand what you did wrong and how you could do things differently, and you have remorse for them, like what do people say? It's like most important person to forgive is to forgive yourself, right?
Right.
And then the other person doesn't. Another person, if you're waiting for an apology, it's actually you forgiving them that's more powerful than them saying sorry. Yeah. Because when you forgive them, they don't have a leash on you anymore. And so I feel like part of this long explanation to your question.
No, it's fine.
I feel like there's so many different ways that we have the opportunity to grow and evolve and to have a self-discovery. And so what does that look like? And it's never too late. I love when I get clients that are in their 70s and 80s and they're excited about life and they're wanting to do things differently, because guess what? It's never, ever too late to have changes that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we'll take our break right here. And when we come back, there's so much more to talk about with you, with your teachings, Amy. We'll talk a little bit when we come back about activating your DNA, about animal spirit guides. We've got that to talk about as well. And crystal energy is something that you teach and talk about that I want to talk about, and activating yourself. You've got DNA Ancient Wisdom Masterclass series on your website. We'll talk a little bit about what that Masterclass series is about, how people can get a hold of that Masterclass series and have them be taught by you via your website, which we'll get all into that. We have a link to Amy's website in the description of this program. So I'm going to encourage you during the break to check out Amy's website and check out everything that Amy has to offer. Amy Robeson is our guest. When we come back, we'll talk about activating your DNA. We'll talk about animal spirit guides and much, much more. We may even get into angels, guides, and guardians, and maybe even fairies. Fairies has been the one thing in my life that somehow I can't wrap my head around, but I'll have Amy explain this to me as well. We'll do that when we come back right here on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Amy Robeson. Amy is an Akashic Records Master. She's also, I guess we could say, psychic medium. Do you hate the term psychic medium, Amy?
I don't necessarily hate it, but I'm a channeler. Like, okay, I'm intuitive. Like, it doesn't matter. You can use all the different words.
well, okay. So we'll take psychic medium off the table. But Akashic Records Master. She's also got a wonderful series on her website that you can get involved with. It's the DNA Ancient Wisdom Masterclass series. We got a link in the description of this program to her website, so you can take part in that series, and we'll let you know a little bit more about it, including what light codes are and how they work. We'll get into that here in a little bit as well. Let's talk a little bit about activating your DNA and how you do that and how it relates to the Akashic Records, getting into everything that we've been talking about in the first part of this program. First of all, okay, we'll talk about Timmy and little experiences with Timmy and getting flashes of little things and my intuition and things. If you get little things in dribs and drabs and you think, okay, maybe I know who's going to call on the phone ahead of who they're, when they're calling, but you're not really getting things and you think maybe I'm as psychic as a stump from time to time, how do I fully get this thing to kick into gear?
You got to practice. Practice is what creates mastery. Just like if you practice the violin, the only way to play the violin is to play it, and to master it, you have to play it. So same thing with intuition. We're all born with intuitive gifts. We all have all of our clairs. Clairs are how we receive the intuitive information. And some clairs are a lot stronger than others. So for example, like somebody that's clairvoyant might see a lot of things, where someone's clairaudient might hear, where another person might feel, where it's clairsentient, or you might be very claircognizant, where there's this deep knowing, or kinesthetic, where you're touching, or taste or smell. Like, there's all of our clairs, and we have access to all of them. And the more you meditate, the more your connection to those clairs are going to strengthen. It's just like a muscle. You got to work it out, or you're going to lose that connection, where it's a little bit harder to get online. So meditating, practicing spiritual practices. So for me, like Akashic Records, or light language, or playing with crystals, or hands-on healing. There's all sorts of different modalities that people can practice in order to strengthen their clairs. And I love the Akashic Records. So like, I think for anybody, even like if they think they're not intuitive, like I had a client once that she was interviewing after the Sacred Awakening, which is my Akashic Record program. And she's like, I took your program just to prove to you that nobody could do it, because I'm the least intuitive person that I know. And she has her own business now. She's really running it. She's like seeing clients. She's healing people. It's really cool. And so you are intuitive. Everyone's intuitive, even if they don't believe that they are intuitive.
Well, I don't doubt that I have some intuition, and that because things do happen where I'm intuitive and it happens, but it's the whole full blown getting things through, So
there's the expectation then. There's this expectation of what someone thinks it's supposed to be like versus what it is.
Yeah.
So like for example, like, when you hear someone that's clairvoyant and they're describing an image of what they're seeing, there's this expectation that this image is supposed to last for like 20 minutes long, and it's like a movie, and it's all this information flowing through. And that's not a true expectation. Most of the time where you get like a visual image, it's a millisecond and it's gone. Mm-hmm. And so that's where all your other clairs come in order to receive more information. And if you meditate daily, or you have different spiritual practices like the Akashic Records, your clairs just light on fire, and it becomes a lot easier. And then they go through upgrades, and then they feel like they're broken and they're offline. And then you're like, what happened? I'm not intuitive anymore. But you are. They're just getting an upgrade, and they go offline for a little bit, and then they come back online.
I'll give you an example of an intuitive moment. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a listener contact me and said, I bought a car for my mom. And when I bought the car for my mom, there was a poppy that was left in the visor. You know, the poppies at the veterans sell.
Yeah.
And he said, my dad used to, when he was with us, used to put a poppy in his car all the time, right in the visor. He said, I'm having a hard time figuring out, you know, whether it was just left there on purpose or if my dad left it there. And I said, well, okay, did you buy it first? First of all, the logical side of me kicks in and says, well, wait a minute. Did you buy it from a dealer or did you get it from a private person? I said, well, wait a minute. Well, maybe that doesn't even matter. Let's throw that.
Doesn't make a difference.
And I said, second, and he asked me, was it a sign or was it I'm trying to remember the other thing that he said. And I said, well, let's just say it's a message. And it's a message meant for both you and for your mother. The message for you would be, thank you for taking care of your mother. The message for your mother would be that he's always by her side and always watching over her. And it's just a reminder that he's there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're spot on. So that's the thing when it comes to intuition, there's this, first off, we got to let our logical brains take a back seat because you can lodge anything out of it. And I am super analytical. I love being analytical, but there's this true magic that happens when you give yourself permission to just channel, to share. And what most people, like if you're an empath, like most people that are empaths, what they're really good at is hyper attuning to the energy in the space. And what ends up happening is they have this blinking sign over their head that says, please tell me all your problems because I will have answers to your problems that I don't have for myself. And when someone comes and shares with them, they're usually in their channel so well because they're not thinking about themselves. They're just listening to the person and then they have this brilliant guidance for this person. They're like, where did that come from? And that's true intuition just at its finest, where it's like, the person goes, I don't even know why I'm telling you this. Like they usually end with, I don't know why I'm telling you this, or I've never told that to someone in my life, or you're a complete stranger. Like I just told you this thing. And what the person has to share with them that has that sign over their head is brilliant. And it's magnificent. It is supposed to come out that way. And it's because they're not overthinking it. And that's how intuition works. Is like, you can have tools to enhance it, but the thing is you have to be practicing it. And one, to get out of your own way, but exactly what you shared with that person was spot on. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, it just kind of makes sense. I mean, if you see it and it's there, well, to me, it would be a message. And that would
absolutely
be the message. You know,
there's synchronicities and signs and things all the time, but we have to pay attention to them. We have to be open to receiving them and interpreting them.
Right. And I would just, and I guess without overthinking it, I would think to myself, well, if it were me on the other side and I had to send a message to both my son and my wife, that would be the way I'd do it.
Absolutely, because they would know that it was from him.
Yeah. So
because there's a deep connection to that very particular symbol.
Yeah. So I guess to me it was kind of a slam dunk, but that was I don't know, but maybe to other people it's not. I don't know. So.
Well, I'd say it's when you're getting started, then you start overthinking, and then you get worried. Did I say the right thing? I hope I didn't say the wrong thing. And that's where practice comes in, where I'm just talking about in general. It's like people get nervous. Like, did I say the right thing? Was that right? Did that make sense? Like, and no, it made perfect sense. It's perfect. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I didn't worry about anything. It just felt right. So I just...
Then you know you were spot on, my friend.
I guess so, right? I guess so. Let's so it's just practice and activating that DNA. Here's the other thing that may kind of throw people a little bit. I've heard of spirit guides that come forward. I can't say I've ever met a spirit guide, or no one's ever come forward and said, "Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm your spirit guide. You know, nice to meet you. Shake your hand," or anything. But how do we know the difference between a human spirit guide and an animal one?
Oh, perfect. Let me go back to the DNA because I actually didn't answer your question.
Oh, yeah.
about
Oh,
DNA.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So, with DNA, you have 32 trillion cells in your body. Within those cells, the majority of them have DNA strands. Throughout our lifetime, we are here to activate DNA. And we can activate DNA in meditation. We can activate DNA through spiritual practices. We can activate DNA through conversation or through experiences, through evolution, okay? And then we can purposely activate DNA. And this is where I love doing DNA activations because we have all these cells in our body and we can then go in and go, I'm going to activate DNA. And so what we do in the DNA Ancient Wisdom Masterclass series, which is absolutely free. And if anybody wants to go and check that out, they can go to theamyrobeson.com/DNA and they can sign up for free. It's a 4-day event and we do free healings and activations and we talk about DNA. What we do in our DNA activations, where we activate 24 strands of DNA, is your higher self is picking what strands are being activated. And within those DNA strands, what we're doing is we're accessing dormant memories. We're accessing ancient wisdom from our ancestors. We're accessing gifts. We're letting go of ancient or ancestral trauma that doesn't need to be passed forward as well. And so what ends up happening is we accelerate time. So we accelerate it and we let go and we open ourselves up to what wants to come forward within that DNA activation. And it's really neat because what I do this twice a year in our DNA Awakening Accelerator. We always have something different that comes up. And for me, this last round that we did, like all sorts of new things about light language started coming forward. Another time I've had where it's like, oh, I'm really working on the next level of me understanding what worthiness means and what that is. Or I've had clients that like all of a sudden they got rid of like a toenail fungus that they had on their toe, or they got a job offer, or they start downloading different ancient or spiritual technology they didn't have access to before, or they understand things in a different way. And so it's really neat when you start playing with DNA and waking it up and clearing things, because we take our whole lifetime to activate things within ours. But this is like where you take time to just go, I am activating this amount of DNA in this period. And then it just gets to be an experience, which is neat.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's fascinating just to be able to focus on something and say, okay, I'm going for it. This is it. Let's get it moving. Let's get it started. Let's go. And be able to do it purposely and purposefully rather than just say, well, I just happened upon a gift. Now I got to try and figure out what's going on. Right.
Yeah. It's really cool because when I heard about DNA activations, I'm like, what is that? And then I just knew like my heart gravitated towards it. And so I got my DNA activated, and all of a sudden I knew things about activations and sacred geometry that no one's ever taught me. Nothing. And then I asked for like a very specific sign where I'm like, I need this very specific sign if what I'm getting is truly accurate. And this sign, I'm talking to someone, and it's right on the back of a tow truck.
Really?
On their back window, night as day, like you can't miss it. And then I'm like, that's funny. And then I turn into the gas station and it's in another section right there, right after I saw it on the tow truck. I'm like, there you go. It's so beautiful on how that happens. And it's a hard thing to articulate into words until you experience it. It's like it's a very much an experiential type of thing.
Oh, wow. Huh. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So getting back to that other point. So you've got a human spirit guide who...
Yes.
Again, I take it you have to be on a different type of psychic plane and having, kind of connected with that spiritual gift. But how do you come upon an animal spirit guide? What type of animal would it be? And how on earth do you get an animal spirit guide? And how do you communicate with it? I mean, are you Dr. Doolittle at that point?
Just like a guardian angel, right?
Okay.
You're assigned a guardian angel at birth. Like there's a team with you that is always with you, that's always watching out for you, that's a part of your allies. These are guides that are with you. Just like animals, you have animal spirit guides that are with you as well. Some show up for a very long time that are with you your whole life, and then some just show up in chapters. And they each have different medicines that they're here to support you with. And you'll go through different chapters. Like I just had 2 particular animal spirit guides that showed up that I have not had showed up for me before. And I'm like, that's interesting. And one's a chicken and tiger. So they each have different attributes and different ways that they can support us. And then there's a animal spirit guide that's your totem. Like that is your main guide. And that particular one is with you no matter what. You can call on that particular guide, and how they show up can be very different. It can be literal, that they're showing up literally for you, or for me, in my case, like when I first got introduced to animal spirit guides in my adult life, it was when I started meditating. And when I would start meditating, I would see a golden eagle all the time in meditation. I didn't even know golden eagle existed, but it was showing up in my meditation. And I'm like, what is this big brown bird? It looks like an eagle. Like, it's beautiful. What is it? And so that is like my main animal spirit guide. That is like, that's my medicine. That's my support system that's here to support me. And so, I have like a really inexpensive animal spirit guides course that if someone's interested, that they can learn who their animal spirit guides are and connect with them. But I think animal spirit guides are really fascinating. I think that as we wake up and the veil is getting thinner, that there are more animal spirit guides that show up more and more and more and more for people. And you just want to be paying attention, because if you're not paying attention to signs and symbols, you're going to miss when they're showing up. And sometimes they show up literally, and sometimes they just show up through meditation or through daydreams or through dreams.
Well, I tell you why I ask this. So you say some are literal and some are some just kind of show up. So as my listeners know, I spent in the spring and summer and fall, I spend quite a bit of time on my front porch. And I work out there. I take my laptop out there. I take my iPad out there, and I answer emails, or I book guests, or I even edit video out there. I'll take and edit video out there, audio, or just work on my front porch. So literally, this little gal right here, her name is Tweety. She's a wild bird. She's a wild finch. Aww. And she sat at my feet all the time. That dish that people are watching the video right now, I'm showing Amy a picture off my phone. I have a little dish of black oil sunflower seeds that are from I have wild chipmunks. I have 5 wild chipmunks that I've named, and I feed them, and I hand feed them. But Tweety would start showing up. She flew like literally 2 feet away from me, and then just started chirping at me. And I figured, oh, she's hungry. So I told her, well, there's seeds right here by my feet if you want to eat. I don't know. Now I've started talking to birds, Amy. I think I'm half crazy.
It's not weird. Trust me.
It's not weird.
No, but that's one of your guides. And just like the chipmunks, they're one of your guides. Like when they start showing up, they can show up for a long period of time or for a short period of time. And the chipmunks, I'm sure that they're around all the time.
Oh yeah. And those are my little guys, my little buddies.
They're a part of your team. And they have medicine. They want to support you and they want to help you, which is really nice.
And so with Tweety and Tweety just started showing up every day and literally like not even 2 feet away, would just sit with me all day and just kind of nest in the little seeds and until one of the chipmunks would chase her away. But then she had a little mate named Steeler, who was her male.
Steeler.
Yeah, and I named him Steeler because he's all yellow and he's got a black face. He looks like a Pittsburgh Steeler.
I love it.
Yeah, so
but that's what I was assuming why you
yeah,
named.
yeah, I named him Steeler because I'm a football fan. But he didn't want to come close. I think he was a little jealous, to be honest with you. That's the vibe I got. He was a little jealous that Tweety was staying near my side, and he would tweet at Tweety and just kind of like, come on, we got to go back to the nest.
Oh,
you know. But I was like, well, Steeler, you can come down and eat too if you want. And so what I did is I put an extra dish up near on the railing so he would eat.
Where he was more comfortable.
Where he was more comfortable, yeah. So it was just this little saga all summer long of these two little finches who would.
That's so cool. It'll be interesting to see if they come back this spring.
Yeah, because they hung out for a very short time. It was like middle of spring to right around the middle of summer, and then I think they flew away for right before it got cold. But yeah, it was very interesting that they were around.
I love it.
Yeah, for just that short time.
And it brings you joy. So
yeah, it
doesn't hurt you in any way, shape, or form.
No, but it was just shocking to see this little bird right in front of my face, just introducing itself to me this spring. So it was fun. Yeah. It was fun, but it was shocking. That was the first time that I'd ever in my life that animals weren't scared of me. I mean, the chipmunks I've been dealing with for the last couple of years, and they've been very friendly but the first time that wild animals had ever approached me, I'd even had bunnies that were approaching me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to have this turn in the last couple of years it's been nice, but it's been, I'm not ready
They're working with you. They're giving you signs and symbols, and it's fantastic. And it makes you feel good. You feel supported. And even if you don't understand how they're supporting you, which you can uncover the ways that they're supporting you. It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It makes you feel seen, and you're helping them, it's just fun.
Oh, and it's fun to feed them too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just fun.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. So, what the animal spirit guide thing was interesting because I don't, other than I haven't learned to talk to them or anything like that. But but it's.
Well, if they come back, when they come back next time, and you can do it out loud or internally, is what do you want to help me with? What are you here for? And just notice what comes up for you.
Okay. If it's building something on the house, I could appreciate it because the house needs some work. Just saying, but other than that, I don't know.
All of a sudden, you get your hammer out and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a little tool belt. Get to work. I mean, that'd be kind of fun. So with these guides and different angels and stuff. So you said that, they show up, maybe they're bringing me a little medicine or helping or even soothing the soul, so to speak. How are we protected by them and how are they coming along and helping me in particular, other than just making me feel good?
Yeah. So one, we have free will. And so if you don't want help or support from your guides, you don't have to take it, and they can't intervene without your permission anyways. But let's just say guides in general, they can give you advice. They can help you understand something. They can help you see a different side of something. They can assist you in whatever their strengths are. So the way I like to explain it in a different way is, in the Akashic Records, you have the masters, teachers, and loved ones, also known as the guardians of the records. Those can be ascendant masters like Jesus, Buddha, Mother Mary. They can be goddesses like Bridget, or the Egyptian goddess Isis, or different deities, or different guides, or angels like archangels. Not every being is a guardian of the records, but there are a lot of them. And the cool thing about the guardians of the records, depending on what you're working on, they have masters in that area that can support you in that particular area. So the way that I like to explain this is, if your tooth hurts, you're not going to go to a car mechanic to get your tooth fixed. You are going to go to the dentist. So same thing with the guardians of the records. If you are working on, let's say, your business, there's going to be guardians that can help you with business. Let's say in the same session, you're wanting to learn how to effectively communicate with your romantic partner. There's going to be other guardians that can come in that can help you, and they shift out all throughout the session that can help you depending on what it is that you're focusing on.
Okay. Let's talk about how exactly fairies would help me here. This is the one thing I have a hard time.
I'm excited to talk to you about this.
Wrapping my head around. Now, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who, God love her, has passed away. And rest in peace, Rosemary. I loved her to death. We had the most interesting talk on the Queen Mary about fairies. And she started to kind of change my mind a little bit. I used to think it was just pish posh. It wasn't anywhere in my realm or in my lexicon to even want to talk about fairies, because I thought it was Disney stuff, right? And then she said, well, Tim, think about it this way. They move entire roads in Europe because they think there may be, a fairy village or a fairy, to them, fairies are very real. So if the entire place where your ancestry may have come from thinks that they need to move an entire road because fairies may exist there, why is it good enough for them and not for you? And I went, oh, okay, well, then, that's kind of convincing. And she said, fairies have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years in the belief in them. And they're quite dangerous. So she started to school me on fairies. So, but yet, to me, if you want to talk about paranormal phenomena that may not necessarily in my mind still not be real, fairies is there. Why is it, and where is it? And have you encountered fairies yourself?
Oh, I have, yeah.
And are they very real? And where do you find them, especially here in America?
So, I used to live in Santa Cruz, California.
Okay.
And we would go hiking in the redwoods, like tons of redwoods. And I could feel wherever there was like a little fairy energy, I could feel where those were. And you do want to respect them. They can be dangerous. Just because sometimes people can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just like souls that have transitioned, they're stuck in between realms, and there's a haunted house and there's a ghost in there. Like, it's still there, even if someone can't see it with the naked eye. Fairies are similar too, and they love to play tricks, and you want to honor them and you want to respect them because they can wreak havoc if you don't. And so for me, I could sense a lot of them in California whenever I would go hiking in certain parts of different trails that I would go into. And there was, I don't remember what the park is called, but it's really neat. It's someone, I don't know when or how this came about, but there's this park where it's a normal park, and then all of a sudden you come into this cove where there's all these Zen rocks stacked up. And there's different energies or frequencies depending on the elemental. So we'll call a fairy an elemental, okay?
Yeah.
And so depending on the elemental, like, there's different energies. And so, like, for this particular place, it's fairy-like. I might even try finding the picture to send it to you. Maybe you can put it up on the show,
sure,
on the video. But there's this energy that's just like undeniable. So when you start tuning into things, you can tune into certain frequencies and you're just like, I can't not, like, that's just something not to ignore. Like, I can feel it. In that particular place, I'm like, whoo, there are so many fairies here. Like, so many. I can, like, feel them all around. And I don't usually see fairies with my eyes, but I can feel them. Like, I'm very clairsentient and, like, I'm very claircognizant. So I just have a knowing. Okay. And the coolest place I've ever witnessed fairies was in Ireland. And I love working with different deities, goddesses, and there's a goddess that's the queen of the fairies, which is Ana, Aine. And this place I went, I forget the name. They said that her body was buried in the middle of this lake. Mm-hmm. And I can send you some pictures of this place I'm talking about too.
Yeah, please.
There are so many beautiful fairy gardens set up in this place to honor the fairies. And out of all of the places I've ever been to, this is the place where I was like, there's so many things here. I'm watching my feed. I'm like making sure I'm not messing up anything, and I'm leaving little gifts and things like that. And so it's one of those things where you either believe or you don't.
Yeah.
And it's even if you don't understand, but there's somewhat of a belief, like they're around and you don't want to mess with them, but you do want to honor them. And like I've had experiences where they like to take things and I'll be like, listen, I need that back. Like, I really need that back. Please give that back to me. Because like if you leave out crystals outside, they like little shiny things, and sometimes crystals will end up missing and things like that. And so I just say, hey, can you give that back? And it usually will show up. Huh. And so one time they took my glasses and I'm like, I really need my glasses back. Like, please bring me back my glasses. And I'm like, I couldn't find them for months. And I checked my car minimum 35 times in the exact same spot, 35 times. I checked between my car seat. Like, I'm like, they have to be there. They have to be there. Checked so many times. And finally I'm like, listen guys, I need these back. Otherwise I have to go and buy a new pair. And I don't want to spend $500 on a new pair of glasses. Can you just give my glasses back? Sure enough, went back to my car. They're right there.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, it's just funny. Like I find it very comical, and I'm Irish. So it's like I have Irish in me. And so like, I feel really connected to them, and they're smart little beings, and they want to help, and they like to play games. They're a great thing if you want to learn how to play and have fun. They kind of have like a lot of dolphin energy, but it's very different. But like, you know, how dolphins just have fun and play, and they're sweet. And fairies, like if you understand them and respect them, they're great. And you don't want to mess with them. Like you don't want to mess with a lot of things. Like if you don't understand, don't mess with it.
Yeah. I played with a dolphin once in the ocean. It was fun. So I get that. I get that energy. So yeah.
It's like playful. They love things, and they love to mess around.
Yeah.
They think it's fun.
Okay. Let's switch gears here. Let's talk a little bit about crystalline energy and what it does and how you came about it. How did you discover crystalline energy, and how do we use it? How does it come
So I grew up with crystals my whole life. Like my mom's collected crystals since she was a kid. My grandma's collected crystals. So I've been around crystals my whole life. And it wasn't until I went into one of my teacher's house where I was like, oh, you're working with crystals in a completely different way. Tell me more about this. And I'm like, there's something really magical about them. So crystals, just like fairies, crystals are little light beings inside of a physical crystal. And we can work with crystalline energy to fill in the blank, to manifest, to help with something, to support. And the way that I teach opening the Akashic Records is I teach my students how to work with crystalline energy to open the records as well. So we can work with tangible crystals, because sometimes working with something abstract with something tangible can help anchor the abstract information and have a different understanding. And so crystals themselves want to support us in so many different ways. And just like us humans, like we each have our own gifts and abilities. And so I'll grab this crystal right here.
Sure.
This rose quartz, right? It's a sphere. You've probably seen all sorts of different rose quartz, from points to spheres to cubes to anything, like a raw piece of rose quartz. Rose quartz is a great crystal for connecting with divinity, connecting with true unconditional love, to heal a heart, to bring more love in, to work more with the water element energy. And so I can have 10 different types of rose quartz. They all have different gifts, but they can each feel very different. Just like you can have twins, but they can still have different personalities, right?
Right, right.
And so with crystalline energy, the main thing is one, if you're being guided to work with a particular crystalline energy or a particular physical crystal, work with that crystal, because it has something that it wants to teach you. It has something that it wants to support you with. It has something that it can help repel something or to bring something to you. And it's really powerful because they've been baking in the earth for millions of years. And so they've been infused with all sorts of different codes and keys inside of the earth plane that want to support us in different ways. And if you think about quartz crystals are used in a lot of technology. Quartz is in our computers and things like that. And so they're really powerful.
Interesting.
And super programmable.
So you can program them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, program them to do what? Now I'm curious.
That's the question. So if let's say you are wanting to stop swearing. Let's just say like that's the goal. You're like, I'm going to stop swearing in 2025.
Okay.
You can program a crystal that will help you choose better words, choose different words. You can literally program it to assist you in articulating in a different way using different vocabulary than you've ever used before.
Really? Huh.
Or you can have a crystal that you program that's to help you with your money blocks. Or you can program a crystal that helps you attract a new job opportunity. Or you can have a crystal that you want that helps you ground and or shields you from other people's energy, so you're not taking on that energy yourself.
You know, because we're talking beginning of the year here. A lot of people are trying to manifest a lot of different things. People want to manifest a brand new career, money, love. Are you saying all that
lose
can be...
weight, gain weight?
Yeah, lose weight, gain weight.
Communicate better.
Yeah, new year, new me, all that. Are you saying that could all be done through crystals?
Yeah, absolutely. And it could also be done all through the Akashic Records. So like you can ask questions on what those steps are and how to get that done. And then the nice thing, what we do inside of Sacred Awakening, because we're working with the crystalline energy, that crystalline energy is attuning you, it's supporting you, it's repelling things from you. And so it's a support system that goes into the fabric of your energy.
Interesting. Okay, so I teased earlier about light codes. How are light codes different from what we've been talking about so far?
So there can be light codes inside of crystals. Okay. There can be light codes. And let's define what light language is first, so then we can talk about light codes. So light language is a cosmic language of your soul. It's similar to speaking in tongue. So if you've ever heard about someone speaking in a religious tongue, like that's what we're talking about. But it has nothing to do with religion. It's the cosmic language of your soul. Sometimes there are no words, no human words. So we're talking about all languages across the world that cannot encapsulate the very thing that wants to be shared, or to encapsulate the very essence of what wants to be shared. And so light language is like tuning into a radio station. And you tune in to a particular station to channel particular light codes that help you break out of trance, because we are in many different trances. And trance means like you can watch a TV show, right? And when you're watching a TV show, you can get entranced, you can be programmed into whatever it is that you are watching. And what the light language does is it's a support system that brings in light codes that gets you out of trance. And I think it's really neat because as a channeler, so when I'm doing healings and I'm doing meditations, visualizations, there are times that there's not a word that wants to come through. And so I'll speak light language, or I'll do the different forms of light language. And there's 3 different forms of light language. It's written, spoken, and symbol, signs, movement.
Is there certain things that celestial beings need to say that they can't say that can be, for lack of a better term? It's a vibration.
It's a frequency, because frequency meets frequency.
Okay.
And so when you're in trance, so let's just say you're staring at a square black box, like you're in trance, and like you are tranced by that black box. When a frequency comes in, it can break you out of not being able to break away from that black box, where it's like it can help you release the hold that black box has on you to be able to go into the frequency that you're wanting to go into. And for me, I'm very particular about when I use light language, how I like to use it. Just like fairies, everything can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing or how you're doing it. One, light language is very strange and very weird. And 2, like, you don't want to be tuning into the wrong radio station. Yeah. You want to make sure that you're tuning into the right radio station. And so I always believe it's really important to protect yourself from what you're consuming, because not everything you're supposed to consume, just because it's available doesn't mean you should consume it. And light language is the same way. Like, it's a frequency, and you want to make sure that you're tuning into the right frequency, because the wrong frequency could come in and that can mess up your world. And so for me, I had the most coolest experience. I was speaking at Conscious Life Expo in February of 24, and it's in LA. It's a huge convention that's happening. It's like all these different spiritual vendors and speakers and things like that. And I went and saw a paranormal panel, and 3 of the panelists started speaking light language, and they each took their time. And when one of them was doing it, I started channeling the exact same light language that he was channeling. And so it's like, this is why it's like, it's a radio station you're tuning into. And then later that weekend, I went and saw another person speak that at the end of her thing, she started speaking light language. I was channeling the exact same thing, verbatim, on time, the exact same timing with it. And I'm being respectful. I'm doing it very quietly.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is so neat, because it's such a deeper understanding of what this is. And you are tuning into a radio station. It's the best way that I can describe it without you ever practicing it. And light language for me, it's like, I was told a while back that I'm going to start speaking light language. I told my guides, I'm like, I'm not doing that. That is so strange. Like, so strange. I don't want to do that. I'm already weird. Like, don't make me do this. So like, it just started coming in. And when I started doing it, I'm like, wait, I used to do this when I was a kid. I used to speak this when I was a kid, and I would do it with my sister. My sister and I would totally understand what each other was saying. And it was so neat and so cool. And so it's a different way of connecting to spirit and connecting with frequency and changing frequency.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. I find that really, really interesting that manifested at Conscious Life Expo, and that you were connecting with someone you didn't even know.
Well, the fun part is about that, Tim, is I did the DNA activation prior to that, like a couple months before that. And one of the things that came forward was these new seals to remove for light language. And so the benefit that I got out of that last light language activation was a deeper understanding of light language. And I've been speaking light language as an adult since 2018 openly. And it's just like, I'm like, this is like next level understanding of what this is. And I've never had that experience. And then the funny thing is somebody else asked, do you ever channel with someone at the exact same time? And she goes, I actually had an experience with someone channeling, and we started channeling the exact same thing. So like I was processing it all in my head, and then someone in the audience actually ended up asking her this question. I'm chuckling to myself because I'm like, you can't make this stuff up. It's just so fun. It's so fun to witness and to observe, but then to see the validation or the synchronicities and things. It's a lot of fun. And then for me, light language really helps with getting out of your own way sometimes, because it's this frequency that comes in and it like shakes things up out of your system.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I do want to ask you this question, Amy, before we start to wrap things up. You said that there are certain things out there, much like radio stations, where you maybe you want to avoid certain things that are out there. And I take it you're referring to some darker things that may be out there, which is kind of refreshing to hear you say. Because you do hear from certain other people that may be of the psychic ilk. They'll say, well, no, there's nothing dark out there. I've never sensed anything dark out there.
There's all sorts of dark things.
Thank you for saying that. I've always believed there's balance in the universe. There has to, with every light, there's something dark. For yin, there's yang. For you, is it easy for you to discern light from dark? Is it easy for you to discern, for lack of a better term, good from evil, to know that that something feels ick, that, okay, you know what, as something ever tried to come at you representing itself as good and you know it's not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you're doing the work and the deeper work you do, sometimes you get this sign that's like, what's that person doing? And, there can be interference. I like calling that interference.
Okay.
And there's things that are attached to all sorts of different stuff. And so I had a really strange experience where I revisited a book series that I absolutely love. And I was like, oh, I'm going to revisit that book series. I really love that book series. And within the first little bit of listening to it, I didn't even get through the first chapter. I had my whole hand pulled while I was trying to put something on the dish rack, and all of a sudden my whole hand got pulled through the water. And I'm like, that was strange. Okay. And then I had a knife fall off my counter, like no reason for the knife to fall off the counter. And then I was cleaning. I clean on a certain day. And so, and then I was dusting my bookcase and I could feel something try to pull my hand through the wall. And I ended up jamming my hand so hard into the wall, I broke my fingernail bed.
Ooh.
And I'm like, okay, this is too many things in such a little short period of time. Like, whatever this is, get that out. Like, right. You are not welcome here. Like, and it's something attached to the actual book. And because consciousness, depending on what it is, and this is a very popular series. I'm not going to say what the series is because I don't want to ruin anything like that for anybody, because it's not my responsibility. But it was like, when I first read this series versus now, like, there are some dark and heavy things attached to this thing. And it is ignorant of me to ignore it. Mm-hmm. If I choose to ignore this is, one, it's dangerous. And two, like, something, like, first off, you don't have permission to be in my house. Second off, like, no, like, you get out, like, I'm not playing with you. And because I'm listening to this book, like, I'm welcoming this in. And so There's a new book out with the series. I'm like, I am not listening to that and it's not because I'm afraid of it. It's because I have discernment and I know that there's a consciousness that's connected to the book based on listeners or readers' fears or experiences, and lower vibrational entities that are darker forces, they feed off of fear.
Yeah.
And so if you have a pretty interesting series that all of a sudden has these fear bases that are attached to it, it can create some really weird things that can happen. And you don't want to ignore those signs. And all sorts of different people have all sorts of different things attached to them. And these things that are attached to them, they're lower vibrational things, but they're not like, I don't put this in quotations, evil. Mm-hmm. They're just feeding off of fears, and they're there because they can. And so if you don't clear yourself and you don't take care of your energy and you don't use discernment, you're going to have things that can come in. And that's why I think it's really important to clear, to protect yourself. And it's not to be paranoid. It's to understand that there are things that you don't understand. And there are things out there that you can't even humanly wrap your head around, because there is nothing that you can possibly put into words that would allow you to wrap your head around it. And so I think that the more you do the work, the more that I used to be super afraid of these things where it's like, do not, like, don't even talk to me about it, to where it's like, no, like, we got to talk about it because they do exist. And I'm doing my students a disservice if I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's not about creating fear. It's about creating understanding that there are some lower vibrational frequencies that are just there that you can clear. And then there's some that are really, truly evil that want to create certain things. And I've seen people that they are manipulated by different beings, or they have different entities attached to them that create these like weird personalities or outbursts in them that you were like, wait, I was just talking to this one person, they're completely gone. Like, what just happened? And it's because they have things attached to them. And the most important thing is to get help. If you don't know how to do it, or you're scared to do it, you got to get help, because there are things that are attached to people that they might have been there from your childhood or from your family or from places you've been. You can pick up things just looking at something on your phone on social media.
Yeah.
Or going into a weird crunchy energy that's just like, what was that?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it can be a scary place at times, and without being on your guard, that's for sure. You can stumble into stuff, and I don't think people are on their guard enough at times. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, folks, the DNA Ancient Wisdom Masterclass series is available at Amy's website. And Amy, give the website one more time.
Yeah, the website is theamyrobeson.com, which is TheamyRobeson.com. Make sure you put the in there, otherwise you will get a realtor. And you will see our events page has all of our free offerings, or you can go to theamyrobeson.com/free, and that you'll find the events there as well.
Perfect.
So,
and we'll have all those.
Much.
You're very welcome. We'll have all those links in the description of this program, so that you can click on those links and find Amy, and not only get those wonderful master classes, but also get to the events as well. And Amy, I want to thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thanks for having me. It's so much fun.
Thank you. Okay, before we leave you today, a couple of notes for you. The first one is a huge one. Of course, right now in California, they have those devastating wildfires happening in 3 separate areas. We ask you here on the show, folks, to keep everyone in California in your thoughts and prayers. Send them positive energy to kind of douse those wildfires and whatever torrential rains we can. Let's call it an intention experiment, if you will. Let's send forth that energy to call forth that quenching rain to douse those wildfires, to get rid of that wildfire so that people can get on with their lives. There's 1.5 million people without power right now. There's over 1,000 structures right now in Southern California that have been burnt to the ground. People are losing their livelihood. The elderly are without homes. They're without assisted living right now because of this devastating historical wildfire. I mean, historical. There's been nothing like this in the history of this state. So we sincerely hope that there's a resolution to this quickly, because it's absolutely devastating. That's the only way. Those are the only words I have for it. So let's put our intention together and see if we can't help somehow. Whether you believe in it or not, let's get to it and see if we can do something about it, rather than just sit on our thumbs and watch the news and watch it go by passively. So put out your thoughts, your prayers, your good intentions, your energy, whatever it is you do, and let's just in our minds imagine a drenching rain putting out those wildfires there in California. All right, folks, second piece of business we have here. If you have an Apple or iOS product that you listen to the show via the Darkness Radio app, and you've been like, hey, you know what, Tim, ever since the latest iOS updates, I haven't been able to get the Darkness Radio app. For some reason, it won't come up. Well, guess what? There's a new update. I don't know if you've seen it or not in your updates, but it's been up for the last 24 to 48 hours. Check your updates, because it's there. So the latest update for the Darkness Radio app is there. Now, if you got frustrated and you went, I don't have enough room on my device, and you got rid of it, go get it again. It's there, and it works on your new iPhone. If you got a new iPhone 16 for Christmas or the holidays, or if you have a new watch, or you have a new whatever it is you have, or you have a new iPad and you've got the latest version of iOS that is AI capable, and you want the newest version of the Darkness Radio app, well, it's out. And it's compatible with all your iOS devices and all your Apple devices. So, and no, this isn't an Android thing. It's an Apple thing. So go get the Darkness Radio Apple app, and it's ready. It's ready for you. So you can follow us now again on the Darkness Radio app. So I'm happy to say that is ready and available for you, and go do that. My last note for you before we leave you this week is this. Have you ever said to yourself, I love this show so much I want to be involved with it? Well, now you can be. I'm about to tell you how. How would you like to be an executive producer of Darkness Radio? That's right. You can have yourself listed in the credits at the end of this show as contributing to Darkness Radio. I'll tell you how if you email me at tim@darknessradio.com. That's right. You can be listed at the end of every show. You can even be listed on our IMDb page. And yes, you'll be a working member of Darkness Radio. I'll let you know how. Of course, there is a fee. There'll be a fee for it, but you'll be a working member of the Darkness Radio team. So it's your way of contributing to the show and being a part of the show. And yes, you'll be a working member. You'll be able to put it on a resume. If someone wants to call me and get your credits, you'll be an executive producer of Darkness Radio. You'll be able to put it on a resume. I'm not kidding you here. This is for real. If you'd like to be able to do that, you can email me, tim@darknessradio.com, and we can work out terms. So there you go. All right, that'll do it for the week, folks. We got exciting things coming up in the month of January, and exciting guests coming up as well, coming up in January, and even coming up into February. We've got, boy, I wish I could say what it is, but I've had a few booking emails come in, and I've reached out to a few guests myself, and things are coming together for January and February. I think you're going to be excited. Right around Super Bowl time should be a good time for the show. So lots of good stuff around the corner. So, folks, for Jessica Freeberg, for Mally Fox, for Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for continuing to listen to the best in true crime and paranormal podcasting. We'll see you next week right here on Darkness Radio.